And when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time, I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who is up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride, and thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and then spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastenings. But maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And I wish that I could tell myself that nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. Wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. Trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. Even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening.
Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Legend says that Hercules swept Cerberus right off his feet and effortlessly set him down softly as a songbird. Atlas kept the world upon his back and every day wondered whether he could stand it any longer. And Tara Reid came out to say the man they tried to label the messiah of morality was really just another rapist. And I don't intend to hesitate when asked who was the stronger. Tara, like Assange, knew that carrying the truth would be the hardest labor. Tara knew that her assailant wasn't gonna make us any safer, and knew he's just the type of man to hand a decent foreign leader US printed walking papers, and knew he'd be relentless and aggressive in the war he'd wage upon her very character, that his attempts to weaken and degrade and embarrass her would be her only compensation. But I strongly doubt that anyone could ever have foreseen the stream of hate that came from quote-unquote progressives and the self-styled titans of survivor advocation. So if you really think there's something to be gained out of sharing your pain with the world, you are sorely mistaken. The Biden team just dragged their feet addressing Tara's allegations. Until they had a decent list of smears, then they aired them out on every station. And it turns out no one wants to hear the truth of who they praised as being worthy of such bloated liberal celebration. That no one wants to really know the person they've so valiantly defended, even when it meant they had to gloat and shit all over someone braver than they'd be if given the occasion. Now cue the faceless comment squad invasion. Cue those fuckers crawling out the woodwork to come analyze the way you wore your hair and what you wear. Like your appearance waives your rights, or that somehow you're the reason for your situation. Somehow they've decided you should bear responsibility for what such monstrous men insist on doing. Somehow they're deluded by the empty, hypocritical, and useless fucking platitudes that bastard keeps on spewing. And I think it's very telling that the best of their excuses when they try to come and justify our president's abuses is a hearty butt Trump. In which case I'll remind you that you never saw the news attempt to sell us Donald Trump like he was morally upstanding or a decent human. But when Joe says something bigoted or ogles someone's little kid, CNN says, isn't this refreshing? Biden's like a mix of JFK and FDR with all the finer parts of Harry Truman. Christ, I know that they don't think that we're the brightest, but at least pretend we got a couple lumens. Ask yourself if you have ever questioned what they fed you, or do you just shut your eyes and then consume it? And now ask yourself if you ate every one of Biden's lies under guise of harm reduction and the promise of a slight improvement. And now imagine long ago that Biden chose to show you who he really was by traumatizing you for his amusement. Now imagine that you watched him touch a Bible with those filthy hands, and then assume the power of the highest seat in all the land, of knowing your attacker wields a global coalition born of three-letter agencies who'll make a life's mission out of trying to discredit you through lies, damn lies, and collusion. Big tech is never gonna separate from our surveillance state. Fuck's sakes, they're just a breath away from total fusion. So there will come a time where even if you see the light, your voice will never reach the sky through all the bots and all the noise pollution. So trust us when we tell you that the masking of abuses is perhaps this country's oldest institution. And I know nothing nobler than facing it in honor of the truth when you know that the people holding power have been neutralizing truth since there was wet ink on the Constitution. So know that Tara's truth is something crucial to the movement. And if you see yourself a partner to the revolution, help this country see through all the baseless propaganda through the crux of Joe's illusions. And recognize that Tara Reid gave everything she had so she could tell us what the truth is. Recognize the decent thing to do when someone bares their soul and shows their bruises is not to ask for context or offer up your own solutions. Your job is just to listen with an honest mind and put yourself on Tara's side a moment so you understand the path she chooses. That there is no instant fame worth the dragging of your name. And if that's what you think, you've a lot to learn about the kind of facts the mob can handle and the kind that it refuses. You've a lot to learn about the news and all its many uses. Guess you've yet to learn the truth the news will serve as fruit from which they've squeezed out all the juices. And we all eat the husk and just pretend it's full of nutrients and isn't really useless. But the jaws of our ability to yield accountability are absolutely toothless. So don't you kid yourself that any lips are being loosened. They won't ever tell us where the bodies are or show us where the proof is. It's on you to recognize the lechery our president so regularly oozes. It's on you to muster up some honesty and ask yourself how Biden won your trust, but it's America that loses. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. Open up your eyes and learn to recognize the bruises. My lips, brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches, we'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance. And all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey. Cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment. Give you 2 coins for the ferry.
Because guess what? What has every major crime bill that's gotten this far been? A Democratic crime bill. A Democratic crime bill. That's the secret. A Democratic crime bill. A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops.
I guess in the end that it's just a crapshoot. Who denounces the true you versus who backs you? Knowing you would skin the poor to make a tracksuit. Knowing you'd begin a few wars if your overlords asked you. Knowing that the ink's not dry on the last few. And knowing that your voters aren't living in a goddamn vacuum. We see through you, Joe, we see past you. Joe, we know you only want to kick trans folks out the bathrooms. Spittle up some dreck about family values.
That's the secret.
Take away our weed and then say that we just need Valium. Joe Biden, patron saint of Big Pharma, knows no karma and all of our media paints him as valiant. Well, I'm here to tell you the spirit of Biden exists in a cursed medallion that rose out of hell like smoke in the form of 1,000 stallions. A dead battalion. Eyes blood red with a lust for the violence of racial injustice.
That's the secret.
I come to bury Joe and burn a candle for Augustus. It's maybe not a song you would dance to, but something of substance. Something in place that can warn you when liberals lie while they're looking you straight in the eye and they say you can trust us.
That's the secret.
I come to bury Joe and burn a candle for Augustus.
Who are these people?
What's up, everybody? Why, Collin?
Hello.
Why is
What
it
up?
like this? Why does everything always have to have something mess up? Let's
I
fix
think
that.
this is on brand for us at this point. So.
Right? At least they can hear you. I had to go here and figure out why this suddenly is the wrong screen. So let's fix that. Display. Oh, because
At
it's
least you got my face.
God. No,
No.
it's just because I'm dumb. There we go. There we go. Look at that. There we go.
Hey.
There's my little
There's my
bear.
What's up, Reef?
Pretty good, man. What's up with you? You doing good? I heard you had a little bit of
kind
fun
of.
tonight. You know?
Always fun with you.
Yeah.
Well, it's just you today.
I heard you might
so-
show up tipsy. You know?
Well,
So-
no, not now, because that was early in the day.
Hmm.
Because I had my principal's retirement party earlier this afternoon.
Right.
This evening. So I had enough time to sober up. So no,
What's
I
up?
am not tipsy.
What's up, Nikki? Rome on the stream I was watching a minute ago with Noli. Was at the liquor store getting him a like cold Miller, and I was like, all right, I feel you. It's Miller time. Rome was one Miller time. That genuine
Yeah.
draft, baby. That MGD. But we got
we are over 500 subscribers, Reef. Can you believe that?
nice. Woo! We did it. We did it. Congratulations. Where's that video?
I know. But
but-
thank you to you guys for your support and love. We hit on Monday the 500 mark. So 500 away and some viewing hours away from being a monetized channel. So thank you very much for that. Oh, you got
This-
the clip?
This one.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Very happy
For those
with
of you
that
who
guy.
know, the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. That's the
Mm.
reference.
Is it?
So,
Gotcha.
it is. It
I wouldn't have
is.
known that. That's some weeb stuff, you know? Um,
Not
that's
really,
a-
only because that's one of the few anime.
It's like the big
that
ones,
I
yeah.
actually have what, but it's the big one of the big ones, one of the
Yeah.
classic ones, and probably my favorite.
That's the one with the weird like cockpit ladies, right? Or am I thinking of a different one? Or is that the one?
Given that, maybe.
Okay. It's like there's one of those that's like Gundam, but like they drive the ship
Gundam,
with like this
Gundam,
lady in the
like,
thing. It's weird.
Yeah,
But-
Gundam, but like very trippy and very psychological.
Do you remember? Do you remember?
yeah.
Not like I think it was called Zords. I think it was like
Not Power Rangers. Not
No.
Power Rangers, right?
it wasn't. It was like separate. It was like Gundam stuff, but it was like, you know, they had like the Shadow Wolf robot. It was craziness, but it was like one of those
You know what? I
Toonami
think
things.
so, but I'm not sure if that was the name of it though.
It's something like
I have
that.
to look it up.
Um,
Anyone in the chat who's like, that's anime, right?
Yeah.
All right,
That's a
any
thing.
anime heads in the chat who knows that, let us know.
I feel like Nikki RLA has to know these things. There's just something.
Les Bones, thank you.
Yeah.
Although Jimmy's
Um,
been going for a while. He's going on since I think like 7 our time, I think.
Yeah.
He's still going.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and
But-
Hinkle's probably going to.
No, well, Hinkle, I think he's starting now. So,
but yes,
but anyway, since it's late,
yeah, we should probably get started.
we should get started.
We should tell people what the stories are for this evening.
We should.
And I can probably just read this description, where that we made. So we've got, you're gonna have a rant about Jamaal Bowman's speech, right? Again,
Well,
a little
this
more in
is
depth.
part 2.
Yes.
Part 2. Well, there's one. I talked about one issue last week. I'm going to talk. Well, I'm not going to be talking. Someone else is going
Right.
to be talking.
Hmm.
If you saw the thumbnail, you will know who's going to be talking.
Well,
This week.
yeah, we'll be talking about Krystal Ball on real time. I got an interesting story on that. We'll run with that a bit. Did you see that Pfizer reportedly sponsored a Miami yacht party and we weren't invited? Like, that's the story. We should have been invited. For
More specifically, Reef needs to be invited.
yes, very much so. Failed Colombian presidential contender. I can't ever say his name right. Rodolfo Hernandez. That's it. But yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. Honestly, we'll get to that.
Miami. And then,
Miami Geoff was probably there. If anyone needs to know about Geoff is a Gator fan in Miami. That is like sacrilege. You are not allowed to do that. It's the U or get the fuck. Like, that's it. If you're in Miami, like, you are not allowed to be a Gator fan. It is not how it works. So Miami
you would know
disowns
that's
him.
consi-
Like,
you would know, considering you're a Florida man. So
I mean, come on,
wouldn't know.
bro. The U, you got to be repping the U. Like, if you're in Miami, is that blue, son? You got to get that blue jersey. You know, it's either that or the Knowles. No, you can't be a Gator fan. You're not allowed. Tim Tebow was a Gator. You are not allowed to like that team, like, ever again. But anyway, so what's first on our your rant? I think, right, is queued
My
up.
rant, I guess. It
Great.
is queued up, I believe. Yeah, it should be.
Nice.
So if you were here last week, I talked about how 2 weeks ago at an event that I'm a part of, well, the organization that I'm a part of had hosted Jamaal Bowman for our benefit event, and he spoke at it and left shortly after. And last week we talked about, you know, he mentioned eugenics in his speech, but I feel like he kind of made that connection to making it more of a right-wing talking point. We debunked that last week reading from a Harvard University article that it was actually elite in academia who actually pushed eugenics.
Yeah.
So Jamaal Bowman didn't mention that. But he mentioned also, Jamaal Bowman also mentioned the Great Replacement Theory. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot of that in the upcoming election, I'm sure, and probably within the next few months, years, I'm sure. But so yeah, I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm only going to play part of it. You can watch the whole thing from last week. I also was on Sabby's show last night talking about this in depth as well. So if you want to watch Sabby's, I think she actually clipped this from yesterday. So if you want to watch that too, you could. So, but yeah, let's get into it. So let's see if this will work for me.
I hope so.
And
yeah, look at that. I just had to unmute it.
Don't have consistent engagement and relationships with your member of Congress and the senators, you have to consistently engage them, because yes, fight locally, but please, you gotta engage Congress, because Congress has a lot of power to do a lot of things. And in order for, I'll say it this way, I was sworn into office January 3rd. January 6th, there was an insurrection. It was an attack on our nation's capital, the first attack on the capital since the War of 1812. It was done by white nationalists. We just had a horrific massacre in Buffalo, New York, facilitated by someone who's following something called the Great Replacement Theory. He literally researched the closest black community, drove 200 miles to slaughter black people. This is what he did. Tens of millions are being radicalized every day online because they think Trump is the official president and they think the Great Replacement Theory is real. So we may see more of what happened in Buffalo across the country, and we see mass shootings every day.
Okay. So, yeah, I just saw Lesbones tweet Savvy Ratio Bowman on Twitter. Not that hard. It's not that hard. But yeah, so you talked about the Great Replacement Theory. And as I mentioned on Savvy's show yesterday and on our stream last week, overall, and I want to preface this because I know a lot of people know me for shitting on the squad. And I think especially given this is an event that I am, connected with for the teaching advocacy organization I'm part of.
Right.
I didn't mind his speech, honestly. The problem that I had with it is I wish that, especially given this was all mostly teachers in the room, mostly of color, I wish he would have gone a little deeper into really like the core of all these issues regarding eugenics, how that started, and the Great Replacement Theory, and and he actually did mention that there in the speech that there's an economic bent to all of this. And I wish he would have went into that a little more. But so then he actually did tweet out. He actually, I think 2 weeks ago, he tweeted this out. He did this on a thread. I didn't bother clipping out the whole thread. But basically he tweeted, "Today, I'm proud to stand here and lead the introduction of this resolution that condemns the Great Replacement Theory as a white supremacist conspiracy theory that seeks to murder minorities, Jews, Muslims, and immigrants alike." So, so I have somebody who many of you know very well, Professor Richard Wolff, who has a critique on the Great Replacement Theory and what it is and what it isn't, and how our congressman is being complicit in some information regarding it. So hopefully, yeah, I should be able to do it from here.
Yep. Almost. Looked like. Try again. No? Okay, fine.
Yeah, I think if it's
I want to tell you that there's a considerable amount of truth in the so-called Great Replacement theory. That's a current right-wing fetish, obsession, and it goes something like this, that white people, males, Christians, and sometimes other categories are being replaced in American culture, society, and economy. And that instead of them, jobs and benefits and privileges are going to be given instead to women, non-whites, non-Christians. You get the picture. The extreme right wing and the not so extreme right wing likes this theory. And I understand why. Because there has been a replacement, but it's not the one they're describing. It's the one they don't want you or anyone else to understand, and so they've substituted their own version of replacement theory. Here's the replacement that actually happened. Over the last half centuries, roughly from the 1970s to now, big capitalist corporations have decided that their best strategy for making money under these current conditions is to, replace expensive workers with alternatives to expensive workers. So let's be clear. Who were the expensive workers? They were overwhelmingly male, white, Christian Americans who, over the last 100 years, through many strikes and struggles, particularly in and with the labor movement, unions, were able to get decent wages. And when you get decent wages, you become a marked person, because the incentive in capitalism is to get around, to get away from high-cost workers and to replace them, replace them with something else. There are three basic replacements. Number one, automation. You replace these high-cost workers with machines. Number two, relocate production out of the United States to where wages are much lower. You know, China, India, Brazil, and all of that. And number three, you can replace high-cost workers that are Native Americans by bringing poor immigrants in who are desperate and will work for a little less. Capitalists everywhere in the world use whichever of those mechanisms are available. And if all three are, they do. And they do it to make more profits. Nobody is holding a gun to their head. No one requires them to substitute machines or to go to China or to hire immigrants. They do it because it's profitable. That's the reason. Now, the problem is when you do that, you make problems for the people that are replaced, who are particularly higher paid, white, male Christians in the United States. They become bitter, angry, desperate, furious about being replaced, which they have been by automation, number one, by relocation of jobs overseas, number two, and the very distant and much less important third one, immigration. The right wing arrives to prevent the bitterness and anger of the replaced white, male, Christian workers from turning against the capitalists who did all this to them, whose profit is what drives the whole process. The right wing is there to make sure that doesn't happen. The working class of white, male Christians shouldn't turn against capitalism. So you got to give them a scapegoat. You got to give them somebody else to blame their replacement on. And that's what they've done. like right-wingers do throughout the history of capitalism, they're performing their assigned function. Divert, deflect the anger of those being replaced, so that they should be angry at the Democratic Party as if it had the power to do these things, which it didn't. To get angry at China as if it's responsible for the decisions of private capitalist American corporations to move to China. They don't have the power to do that either. Or, the worst of it all, blame the desperately poor immigrants from Central America who come here looking for a better life like immigrants have for centuries. Blame them somehow for being replaced. No, they're doing a good job, because guess what? If you look at the right-wing propaganda, it very carefully avoids ever mentioning that the big capitalists are the problem, that the big profit drive of capitalism is the problem. No. Not from them. They know where their money is coming from. They know who their major donors are. Their job is to keep the capitalists safe, and that's what their replacement theory does. Now, you might wonder, why don't the Democrats tell the story the way it is truly to be told? That it's capitalism that's the problem. It's capitalism that has replaced the high-paid workers with machines, with cheap overseas workers, and with immigrants. And the answer is the Democratic Party is Republican light. It's dependent on the same capitalist donors. As Ms. Pelosi told us, we're all capitalists now, speaking of herself. Yes, we are. And that's why the Democratic Party seems as weak and as lame in what it does. Yes, it speaks up for immigrants and women and non-whites, those that the right wing targets. But by supporting them without explaining what's going on, they come off as weak, as supportive, and they create the basis for the right wing to say all the Democrats care about is getting the votes of the people we scapegoat. The reality is we have no one, neither Republicans nor Democrats, willing to say, yeah, there's been a replacement, but no, it's not the fault of those you're targeting. You don't have the courage, you extreme right-wingers, to point the finger at where the problem lies. You long ago sold out to the donors, the capitalists, the wealthy, who keep this system going, who make the profits by replacing any workers who get a high wage sooner or later by someone who gets a low one. That's how capitalism works.
Richard Wolf, I mean, sounds good to me. Like,
any thoughts?
I mean, it just feels like, this has come up in political discussions recently, right? Especially near me, where, people talk about this great replacement theory as if it's, somehow like, and it's confusing to even talk about, because like, is the replacement theory that like, like that we don't teach actual history, like, or is it the opposite? Is it like nonfiction books, like you got to remember which way it is, but, like, do the same people normally arguing that like, taking down, historical Confederate statues is, gonna explode the universe because history, right. Yet teachers who already have terrible history curriculum, right, are going to if the book doesn't omit these things normally, they're supposed to, because that's going to like make people think that I don't know, that there might be some like differences among how our government and historically we've treated like you know, black and brown people. Like that's what we're supposed to do. You know, it's just
Right.
kind of crazy to me.
Right. And I think for me, that was the part, you know, that Congressman Bowman had the opportunity to kind of go into a lot more, and he chose not to, either out of ignorance or he purposely avoided the idea that, yes, there is a great replacement theory, but the key and the magic word is capitalism, in terms of, you know, that both parties are complicit with their donors that are allowing this to happen at the detriment of everybody, you know, as
Right.
far as the working class.
Yeah.
And, you know, and as Professor Wolf said, you know, the Republicans kind of blame or shift blame onto Democrats for saying, oh, you know, they are the cause. You know, all these others are the cause of why your wages are low or whatever else.
Right.
And instead of calling them out, you know, in terms of, no, it's the idea that corporate donors are making it the way it is. They're complicit in that. So
Yeah.
they don't say that. And there's a reason why, and I'm sure in thinking about this, there's a reason why that Jamaal Bowman stopped short of saying that it's tied to capitalism. Hopefully I could play this next slide.
I think so. If you click in the middle, it works. Pretty sure. No. Try just hitting next on the slideshow and see if that does it.
What I've
That's it.
seen on NYU's campus and what I've seen in polls all over, in CNN even, a Harvard University poll last May showed that people between the ages of 18 and 29, not just Democrats, not just leftists, 51% of people between 18 and 29 no longer support the system of capitalism. And that's not me asking you to make a radical statement about capitalism, but I'm just telling you that my experience is that the younger generation is moving left on economic issues. And I've been so excited to see how Democrats have moved left on social issues. As a gay man, I've been very proud to see you fighting for our rights, and for many Democratic leaders fighting for our rights. But I wonder if there's anywhere you feel that the Democrats could move farther left to a more populist message, the way the alt-right has sort of captured this populist strain on the right wing. If you think we could make a more stark contrast to right-wing economics.
Well, I thank you for your question, but I have to say we're capitalist, and that's just the way it is. However, we do think that capitalism is not necessarily meeting the needs with the income inequality that we have in our country. And let me just...
So actually, did you notice that when I think this was back in 2017, I believe.
Yeah.
You noticed that when he said capitalism, like she just literally, like, it was kind of like rolled her eyes or kind of like kind of taken it back, like, how dare you mention?
He asked for a populist left message. Like, he wasn't even asking for, like, and she immediately was like, communism. Like,
basically.
You know, like.
Basically, but like just the way that kind of disdain as far as, and he didn't even say socialism. Like, he said populist. Like, can you move more in the populist direction the same way that the Republicans have? And basically she was just like, no, we're capitalists through and through, you know? And I know she said it recently, like, the Democratic Party is a capitalist party. So, so again, this is part of the reason why Congressman Bowman stopped short of saying everything is tied to capitalism when the leader of his party, you know, is pro-capitalism. So it kind of will look funky if he's talking about capitalism, you know, how much the Great Replacement Theory is tied to that, and then not being able to say, you know, like, but my leader is a capitalist. Take a look at the next slide. And we know about this guy.
Shut up, fat.
Right now, billionaires pay an average rate of 8% on their total income. 8%, that's the average they pay. Now, I'm a capitalist. But if you can make $1 billion, great. Just pay your fair share. Pay a little bit. A firefighter and a teacher pay more than double the tax rate that a billionaire pays. That's not right.
Sorry, I had to add that. I got creeped out by it. I'm sorry to everyone in the chat. I had to creep you out too. I had to creep you out too. It was a great thing to do.
Same, very good.
I loved it.
Like, why did he do that? Like it was a secret. It's like he was trying to tell a secret. Like, that's
but you
not,
know what though?
That's
but you know what
right.
though? In a lot of ways, it is a secret. Like the idea that capitalism is like pretty much the issue. Like in many, issues I think that we talk about, in the space, it's the core issue, and it's a shame that we kind of talk around it, but never kind of get to the root of it in terms of like. Kind of recognizing the idea of like capitalism is what is driving us to essentially despair in this country. And yeah, and like I said, it's just a shame that Bowman had the platform, and especially, as I said, given that this was a room full of teachers, would have been educated enough to kind of make those connections on their own, or at least have an idea, and they failed to do that. So for me, just his speech in that sense kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah. Well, and it explains, like, I think his speech, he's trying to make a big Republican straw man boogeyman too. Yeah. Where it's like, not explaining why any of these things are bad or need to be worked on or whatever, just that they're bad because they're doing it, know.
And when I was when I was talking with Sabi about this yesterday, and I remember someone in the chat mentioned this, like that kind of, that's kind of like in a way derogatory towards not Republican politicians, but like Republican working class.
Yeah,
because it kind of puts them in the sense of like you're the other that hates, like people who are not like you, when the reality of it is like it's tied to social and economic issues, and not issues necessarily in relation to party. So yeah, again, like I just hated the fact that Jamaal Bowman kind of made all of this a right-wing talking point when the root of it is capitalism, which affects the working class, the class that like allegedly he's supposed to represent, and he failed to take that time with us to kind of talk about it, you know. And like I said, even yesterday, on Sabi's stream, like Jamaal Bowman gave his speech and left, like he didn't take any questions from us, like he didn't engage. And funny enough, if you watch his speech, he said, you need to engage with us, like he didn't even take the time to engage with teachers right then and there when he had the opportunity to. So, like, I just felt like...
Did he kiss any babies? Like...
There weren't any babies yet. So.
Oh, darn. I mean, that's what matters. We all need to see who can kiss babies. That's who should get elected. But, yeah, I mean, spot on, bro. Like...
And... that concludes my two-parter rant.
Woo! We did it.
Yeah. So.
Bitches.
All right. So I've got a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and Pfizer reportedly sponsored Miami yacht party for failed Colombian presidential contender Rodolfo Hernandez. So I found this through Max Blumenthal. He tweeted this out from the Gray Zone. I couldn't see who actually did it in the Gray Zone. There's an editor's note, so it might have came from somewhere else, but it's good reporting nonetheless. So have you been following any of the stuff happening in Colombia?
Other than the election a little bit, and that's in thanks to Fiorella.
Yeah.
But other than that, no.
Right. Okay. So just days before the second round of the presidential elections in Colombia, a Colombian media outlet released images and video of an exotic party in which Rodolfo Hernandez, the candidate of the League of Anti-Corruption Governors, participated with a number of businessmen and several young women on a yacht in Miami. The images generated controversy not only due to the attitude of the candidate, but also because the luxurious party was paid for by the U.S. pharmaceutical company Pfizer, interested in expanding its business in Colombia. So, not only is all of your news brought to you by Pfizer, but now your yacht party with Miami models is also sponsored by Pfizer.
What does it mean when it says not only the images generated controversy not only due to the attitude of the candidate?
Yes, we'll get there.
Okay.
So the images were revealed by the Colombian outlet Cambio, which cited a confidential source that stated that the party had taken place on October 9th, 2021, when Hernandez had not yet revealed, at least publicly, his intention to run for the presidency of Colombia. However, the media outlet drew attention to the fact that the lobbyists interested in doing business with Colombia participated in the event. According to the revelation by Cambio, the party was held on a yacht valued at $4.5 million, and its rental for 6 hours is about $5,000. On the night of October 9th, 2021, the boat made a tour of Biscayne Bay in Miami with Hernandez, several men, including 2 of the candidates' sons, and 11 young women in bikinis. So,
I mean, that's typical for Miami, but
yes, but yes, which is why we love the city. So there was video. Would you like to watch a bit of the video, Collin?
Oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great party. Like, this is a fantastic party. Like, they got DJs and everything. But yeah, so craziness. So this is, I think they circle him here, right? Like, that's one of the sons, right? And like, like it's just, and it's super weird. Like the old dudes start dancing with people. Like, I
mean, again, this is Miami.
I feel you.
I mean, this wouldn't be like, if they were going to do stuff like this, and I'm not saying, this is what you do. Like, I just almost
also
feel
that
this
dance
is kind of on par for the course. Yeah.
This dance is just, this is a politician dance too. But where are their masks? Asked Les Bones.
Les Bones, you know that no one wears masks, especially in Florida.
Right. Especially in Miami. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, this is a big yacht. This is a yacht, and it's a party. Thus, a yacht party. I think we've had enough of this.
Yeah, we got the point.
Yes. If I could just go to the next. So, Cambio also revealed that the party was paid for by Pfizer, which has been lobbying for expanding its business in Colombia. In fact, the video released by Cambio shows several Pfizer executives present on the yacht, including Christopher Arian. Yeah.
Arian,
probably. I would hope he pronounces it that way. Manager of Pfizer for the Andean countries. Another participant in the party was Marcio Ramos Pinto, owner of an event management company in Miami, who also works as an international business lobbyist. So, interesting resume there. The images broadcast by the media show the young women dancing and drinking alcohol with Hernandez and other men. He also appears dancing with a young woman and, at another point in the video, whispering in the ear of another woman. Cambio consulted Hernandez about who organized the event, who covered the expenses, and who the guests were, but he did not respond. However, he later tweeted his displeasure at the criticisms he was receiving for the party and claimed that his detractors are desperate to prevent him from winning the presidency. Pfizer denied that the employees had met with Hernandez last week when the candidate had traveled to Miami mid-campaign, but refused to say anything about October 2021 when the party was held. So, fun stuff there. Editor's note, Rodolfo Hernandez, lauded in U.S. mainstream media as an anti-corruption crusader, was defeated by left-wing politician Gustavo Petro in his bid for the presidency on June 19th. Under the presidency of Ivan Duque, Colombia overpaid by as much as $375 million for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. According to secret contracts with Pfizer that were later leaked, Colombia was compelled by Pfizer to forfeit immunity against precautionary seizure of any of their state assets. A peer-reviewed May 2022 study by JAMA Network found that immunity against the Omicron coronavirus variant fades rapidly after a second and third dose of Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine. This article was originally published by Orinoco Tribune. So, yeah, what do you think, Collin?
I mean, again, this just seems on par for the course. But you know what this reminds me of in a lot of ways, like the idea of, like in the UK, there's the National Health Service, NHS.
Yeah.
So just remind me how like lobbyists here are trying to infiltrate that system over there to try and privatize healthcare. So this is kind of, to me, kind of reminiscent of this, like Pfizer is trying to get their foot in the door in Colombia, I'm sure, obviously for profit, and using who felt like their best stooge, basically wine him and dine him, to like, this is a bribe. Nothing more than a bribe, and so, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, but at the same time, it's disgusting, that, Pfizer is taking these steps, to ensure profits, in Latin America in this way. So, but it's disgusting, but not surprising.
Yeah, you are going to get a lot of Latin men bought with this method. I am going to say that. Like,
right. And I mean, and again, like, this is Miami, like you know, and in a way I can't knock it because, I did, well, the difference is I was with my family and friends. We rented a yacht, for like an afternoon, and we were basically doing the same thing. We were partying or whatever else. So them doing this, and I'm sure in that way, like, people don't necessarily know who they are. Like, it just could be like, oh, I figured, that they could do this discreetly and none will be none the wiser, as I think, especially, in Colombia, but it got out and he lost. So, so I mean, I think good on the gray zone for kind of reporting on this, but at least, that like that Pfizer's plan basically backfired. Them, which I think is it. So in a sense, this was a happy ending, but but like it just kind of shows what massive corporations are willing to do, in the name of profit and sell basically themselves to, countries like that.
I mean, if you're gonna at least do profit, you got to get the Ferengi like code of ethics, like they had a ton of rules, but yeah, this was, I just found this story kind of ridiculous. It's like, it's such a weird, shady bribe, like, and it feels creepy and
but
weird.
The other thing is, I'm just wondering, like, well, we know why, but like, it's interesting that mainstream has not reported on this.
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So like
The
obviously I
mainstream
didn't know
brought to you by
right.
Pfizer.
Exactly. So
Like-
you know, so it's not surprising that, but this is the kind of thing that should be reported.
Yeah.
You know, so but Pfizer's in the hand of our media, so you know they would be able to keep this on the hush hush. So,
Right. But yeah, no, good stuff from what was it, the Orinoco Tribune or whatever, wasn't that it?
mhm.
And for the Gray Zone for publishing that, as well. But brings us to our third story this evening, and I think we're doing pretty decent on time.
For once.
Yeah. But
I think it also relates to the fact that it's late. Don't think it's the latest we've done.
yeah,
But,
yeah, I think it's actually pretty normal for us, honestly. We've done a few tens. But Bill Maher, Bill Maher, had on the tablecloth dress wearing Krystal Ball on his show.
You can't say that, and for people who don't know, give context to that.
Oh, I guess I should find that, huh?
You could probably do that after the segment, but
yeah, well, I mean, it shouldn't take me long. It's someone probably just retweeted it. I know where I can go. Just one of these DMs real quick. Steph, and then this one.
yeah. By the way, Reef last week, just to give credit to this, like, was so proud of this.
I was. You try getting 2,000 likes. So
They have gotten 2,000
yeah.
likes recently on a tweet.
Nice. Nice. But anyway,
Oh, bitches.
but these tablecloths are great. I'm going with I kind of am going to go with red tablecloth.
Yeah. I think the way I think the way Bree is wearing hers looks a lot better. Like Krystal's just kind of
the arms are weird.
Shoulders are like
it's weird.
Like Krystal is just like, it literally looks like she's
Anyway.
literally wearing a tablecloth.
And Joan, what do you think? Oh my God.
Anyway.
But this guy, which, Brianna Joy Gay did retweet me, quote tweeted me even, which good for her for having the humor on that. Good for you.
Yeah.
Krystal, CNN's new boss wants the network to steer away from sensational, hyper-partisan coverage. Yes, I saw that. CNN, you can't refer to the election as the big lie, or Trump's big lie as the big lie. Which, again, I'm totally on the page of it was the big lie, but I think that's the right thing.
Yes.
I mean, now you're MSNBC, even though it's a little like Jack Del Rio. He's totally wrong, but I defend his right to be wrong. Okay. Do you think CNN will actually stick with this new plan?
No. I mean, they actually. Listen, my issue isn't actually with opinion journalism. If you're upfront about what your lens is, no problem with that whatsoever. I do have a problem when it blinds you to facts and honesty. And I think both CNN and MSNBC, their maximalist ideas in terms of Russiagate didn't end up working. So that's the issue I have there. Will it work? No. Because ultimately, what's going to happen? Trump's going to come back. Guess what's going to rate? The people who go, the furthest in on Trump, that's what's going to get the best ratings. This is a business. It's a business model. I think it's an abhorrent one that leads to a disaster for America. I think it's a cancer on society, all of the cable networks. But ultimately, those are the incentives they respond to. So, no, I don't think it's
So what do you mean
change.
by maximalist ideas about Russia?
Like the P-tape stuff.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Steele dossier.
MSNBC floating that he's been a Russian asset since 1985. All that sort of stuff.
I mean, the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is controlled by Republicans, said that Trump's involvement with Russia was a grave national security threat.
Okay, but that's not the same as saying Putin has a P-tape and servers are bouncing back and forth.
P-tape was always lurid, and who knows? I mean,
If you don't like that one, then let's talk about the lab leak and the idea of where the coronavirus came from and the fact that these outlets said that not only could it no way could it come out of the lab, but that's racist to say. So
I've been all over
that's what I'm saying is I have an issue when your ideology blinds you to the facts. That's
I have
my
that
problem.
issue every week on this show.
Yes. Yes, I don't have an issue with opinion journalism is what I'm
But the
saying.
idea that Russia and Trump were inappropriately intertwined. I mean, his campaign manager, Manafort, was sharing polling information with this guy Kalimnik, who was
the Mueller report found that there was no collusion, and we were promised this. We were promised this for 3 years.
They overpromised,
and it was really in cable news.
But there wasn't
cable
nothing.
news every day.
There wasn't
It was
nothing.
something else.
There was something.
It wasn't nothing.
But you know what? The truth was bad enough with Trump and Russia.
Correct.
Why did they have to embellish it?
You're right.
Why did they have to embellish it?
What he did in public
was bad enough.
Right.
We disqualified him for the presidency.
Right.
And he said that maybe maybe Russia can keep Crimea. That to me was disqualifying.
How about siding with Putin?
That too.
At Helsinki.
Right.
Like, my 17 intelligence agencies tell me one thing. I got to go with you, Vlad.
It was a disgrace, but they couldn't.
Just side with America. Is that a big ask?
The problem with so many people in the media, they couldn't take that alone. It had to be this Baroque conspiracy going back to 1987. He was recruited by the KGB.
Right.
I mean, it was such a scandal, actually, when you look back on it, how we were deluded by this.
What we were sold and what the reality was were not the same.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can say
since he
that
doesn't care about, he's a clinical narcissist.
But our standards cannot fall because of him.
But the idea that he would do that is completely believable, and he would have done it.
Well, that's why people bought it. But if you're in the news business, I mean, that's why I think cable news is such a cancer, is because ultimately it is just about the ratings. They don't care they got it wrong. They're never going to correct the issues.
I couldn't agree more.
Is that going to change with the new boss? No.
And it's just about saying the things that make your audience go,
yep.
Yes, I already believe that. Thank you for reinforcing what I believe.
And never letting anything outside of the bubble in. And that's Fox.
I just want to pause real quick. Do you notice that, like, the audience had to really refrain from after his moment, like, doing that? They had to think about it for a second. And also the fact that, like, Bill Maher mad that someone's a narcissist. I feel like that's pot calling kettle, you know?
Right.
Fox News, that's on MSNBC. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Danny, if you could write a screenplay about.
Okay, that's done. Okay. But I would love to know what people in chat thought overall.
Actually, I have a thought on this because.
Please.
Like, I haven't watched the whole thing. Like, I've seen this interview. Well, honestly, can we call this an interview? Like,
I mean, it's a panel show. Is
it though?
I mean, I think it's considered. What do they call that? Like, it used to be like. What was the other one? You know, it's a table show or whatever, right?
Okay.
Like, you know.
Right. Well, okay. So I'm just thinking in terms of, like, when Krystal was on Bill Maher's show. I think when his old show.
Yes.
Like that was more of an interview. Like, I don't remember, to my knowledge, it's been a while since I've seen clips of that show that Krystal did. You know, but it was just the two of them. So, you know, and they were having like this back and forth. This time it's just like these two goons like talking over Krystal and, like, you know, barely having her get a word in, almost, I feel like, on purpose, because they didn't want her to talk. Like, I mean, in light of all the reporting that we've done in Krystal, like, I don't have love for Krystal in that way, but she was speaking truth to a lot of the issues here. And I feel like those two were there probably just to kind of, like, we know that Krystal is going to say a lot of shit, so we have to kind of talk over her to make sure that she doesn't say the things that the mainstream media doesn't want us to say. You know, that's kind of how I felt like watching this. And, and Krystal just kind of, I mean, in that situation, I'm not sure if I was in that position, I'm not sure what I would do, especially since this was taped, but I felt like we've seen Krystal push back on Saga, back in the day when they were both on Rising.
It's funny.
A lot harder, and a lot harder back then. And she was just so tepid here, which I'm kind of like.
It feels like Krystal Ball was always, even when she was at the Hill, someone to push up against, Brian Grimm, similar to how Iverson now, is almost in that slot. But she does a far better job, Kim. But I'd love to know what people in chat actually thought of the substance of what she was saying, and I find it interesting, specifically that they talk about the lab leak theory, which I know they, accused a few people of being conspiracy theorists when that was being talked about. Now it's acceptable knowledge, right? And it's acceptable knowledge on cable television, pretty much. Not even premium, because this is on HBO.
Right. And whereas not so long ago, if we were talking about it it was a leak, you were banned essentially from YouTube for talking about it in that way.
I mean, so and I know there's another clip of her coming at Maher again, and I think it was over the $2,000 checks she pushed back on, saying that that's not the reason for inflation.
I think the CARES Act, I believe, I know Jimmy reported on that, Bill Maher basically didn't know shit as far as the stock market crashed around that time, and Bill was like, no.
I like the one guy backing her up on the little bit of pushing back on Russiagate, which it's a very slight little pushback, right? She's definitely really mincing her words there, and choosing carefully what she's saying,
Right.
So much so that I'm are you even really, to me, that's a whole loaf you work on, but, I don't know, Indy. I probably could go back and look. But
I mean, to me, I didn't care for them. I'm sure they were just there to just kind of deflate Krystal's talking points. That's pretty much what I felt their role was for, just so people wouldn't necessarily hear what Krystal had to say, because again, Krystal doesn't say everything right sometimes, especially given the talking points she's had on breaking points as of late. But a lot of the stuff that she was saying in the few clips I've seen of her talk about it, she was spot on.
Right.
And, so they can have that, especially even though it's cable.
But no, I mean, I'll give her a slight, you get 2% of a gold star. You get the worst gold star in the bag of gold stars. The one that's bent at the bottom. It's not even shiny. But Tara Reid would like to remind us that Bill Maher went after her publicly and viciously twice without ever speaking to her. Yet he is the ideal of some independent content creators like Krystal Ball, Sagar, and Kyle Kalinske, which she leaves out. Why is he admired? Of course, he has an elaborate set and budget. And she's posting Bill Maher's take on new rule, sex monster. Tara got a reply from this individual. Krystal gave you what few else did, a platform to tell your story and acknowledge the credibility of it. It's places like Bill Maher's platform where she can attempt to get his audience to see we are headed in the wrong direction as a country. So, completely dismissed, what Tara was saying due to the fact that Krystal's nice.
Yeah.
you know, like,
and we've talked about this, I think, within the network. I think
Yes.
especially in light of the article that Indie Crab and Dissent wrote, you know,
Right.
like, yes, it was good for Krystal and Ryan Graham to cover Tara, you know, regarding her accusations regarding Biden.
Yeah.
But they haven't followed up with her since then.
Right.
You know, they took that story, you know, Tara got some coverage, you know, in mainstream a little bit. I think due to independent media, like mainstream was like, okay, we have to cover this story. And they did, you know, but then after that, you know, after those 15 minutes of, you know, coverage, you know, I don't feel like now someone can check me if I'm wrong in the chat. I don't think Krystal has necessarily mentioned her again. I don't think Ryan has necessarily mentioned her again, you know? And so like, Tara is still, you know, like, just as far as her story is still like, you know, she hasn't gotten any justice from that. And right now, you know, she's trying to start her own podcast through our network and she gets smeared constantly.
Yeah.
You know, due to like, I don't see Ryan or Krystal backing her up in that. So it's just kind of like you used her for, you know, your prestige, you know, like, or getting some attention, you know, given like this was during the time when during the primaries, like but they didn't take anything more other than what they were able to get from her like after that.
Yes.
So for me, it just kind of comes off as just ingenuous, like,
well,
you just used her for your own gain, for your own means.
Yes.
And you tossed her aside.
Right. Yeah. Where have they been lately? But I wanted to continue a little bit. So I kind of bring this up because as Cynic puts in the chat, I'm sorry, but why is anyone expecting anything from any of these people? And I'll tell you why slightly. There's a multitude, you know, but specifically for this instance, someone already did that before. On Maher, right, has already brought up Tara Reid. When Krystal, who, you know, I would like to point out, gave Tara what few else did, quote, right? You know, a platform, right? So you like her enough to bring her on to like tell her story about this, you know, when we know, because Tara pointed this out when you announced, right? And like, I imagine you still read her tweets, you know, but, Tara continues to this person, and I would assume she would bring up what Biden did to me or what he said, or Rose, talking about Rose McGowan, which we'll get to in a second. I do not owe anyone anything for telling the truth. I don't have to beg for a platform. I am sick and tired of hypocrisy. It enables the monsters. Couldn't agree more. And she brings a article about Bill Maher and Charlemagne the God, who, you know, if anyone is mourning the cancellation of the Wendy Williams show, you know, probably big fan of you know, Charlemagne, but you know, so this article talks about real-time host Bill Maher had a heated exchange with radio host Charlemagne the God over sexual misconduct allegations against Democratic New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. And Tara's had many of the people that called out Cuomo, you know, on her show, and people should go check that out. I think it's one of her first podcasts in there. It was really good. I can't remember the lady's name. I'm sure Andy will tell me. But yeah, and President Biden. So during a panel discussion Friday night about whether Cuomo needs to resign, Maher began by declaring he does not need an investigation into the sexual harassment allegations that have surfaced against Cuomo, insisting it's always on a case-by-case basis and that I believe these women completely. Charlemagne, however, told Maher it's kind of hard to ask Cuomo to resign when you voted for Joe Biden.
Right.
Going hard right off the bat there, Charlemagne. Good for you. He explained, if I weren't more upset with Joe Biden, who had more, he explained, if you weren't more upset with Joe Biden, who had more serious allegations. No, he didn't, Maher exclaimed. Yeah, he was accused of actual rape, Charlemagne said. No, he wasn't, Maher doubled down. What are you talking about? Charlemagne gasped. Are you talking about the hallway incident? Maher asked. Tara Reid, Charlemagne responded. Good for you, my friend. Good for you. Good for you. In this one instance, good for you. Do more of this. Well, I mean, he was the one that got, did he not get, Joe Biden doesn't think you're black? Wasn't that him too?
That was him, but I have,
and then Kamala Harris.
And then
he got something out of her too.
He's had his moments, Yes. I give him credit for those moments, but
yeah, he's also got some weird stuff, like most of us do.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that. Maher quickly dismissed Biden's accuser. That's what I'm saying. Some I believe, some I don't. That's my right. I don't believe her. These women I believe completely. I don't think that Joe Biden is the guy who finger bangs you in the hallway. I don't. I just don't. What are you basing that? Have you not? Anyway, the Breakfast Club co-host stressed that while he wasn't saying he believed Reid's claims either, he pointed out her allegations were more serious than Cuomo's, and yet I didn't hear people asking him to resign or drop out of the race. New York Times columnist Frank Bruni pointed out that Biden had repeatedly denied Reid's allegations, comparing the denial to Cuomo's non-denial about at least one of his accusers. The conversation then pivoted to the allegations other women made about Biden's inappropriate touching, which Maher stressed was a different issue. That's when he was sniffing their hair, Maher told Charlemagne. The first allegation was just, it wasn't even a Me Too. Even though it was interpreted that way in the press, it was just he was trying to do an old man thing. Hey man, harassment is harassment, Charlemagne said. Like, killing this interview, bro. No, it's not, Maher shot back. I don't think we can tell women the difference between sniffing hair and saying something inappropriate, because I think sniffing hair is just as inappropriate as saying something, Charlemagne said. Maher then went to bat for Biden, explaining the Democrats were just trying to show Lucy Flores encouragement.
By sniffing her hair.
Right. Anyway, she was just
about. Would you
appreciate
it? Would you feel encouragement by me if I sniffed your hair?
I mean, yes, because my beard smells amazing, but I make sure of that. I would feel insulted if you didn't, honestly. But having said that, that's me. And don't kink shame me, okay? But like this to me is very clearly like this is a Jesus Christ here. I mean, Maher's had plenty of bad takes, right? He's supported, female teachers, like taking power over young male students, right? He was one of those classic guys that went that way with it. But
I think this just proves, and I think just being in this space, just the hypocrisy, if this were Trump, and I'm sure, I'm sure this was the case, like with Trump, like they'll go all in,
Yes.
being like, oh, I believe this person because it's not connected to their party, if anything, because it's like, it helps their party to kind of condemn the other, in this case. But like when it's their own, then it's like, then they don't call that out. And, it's funny because I just had a conversation with a parent a couple of weeks ago, over like an issue. Like, my kids are young, they're like 4 and 5 years old. They hit each other, they don't have control of their bodies, basically. So, and the mom had a complaint about that, like she was worried that her child basically came home and said he was scared or whatever else, and so I basically told her, because there was an instance where I saw what happened and I talked to both boys directly during the lesson, like if someone tells you not to do something, you stop,
Right.
But basically teaching them the idea of consent, funny enough, I think now it's more of a necessary thing, in this day and age, but the fact that I have to teach my students, the idea of like, people, you have a right to your body, and like, people don't have the right to touch you if you don't want to be touched. You have the right to say no.
Right.
And, and like, even if you, like, if someone touches you, like, you have the right to say, like, don't do that, whatever. I don't like that or whatever. So, so all of that to say, how is it that like people were able to believe Ford when she came out against Trump, and like everybody was all up in, like, oh, we must believe all women, and all this kind of stuff. And honestly, and I'm going to say this because I know it might be a controversial take, but I'm going to say anyway. Okay. I didn't believe in the idea of like believing all women. I believe in the idea of seeking truth. Like, right. I believe you should listen to them and follow up with them to discover what the truth is, because the truth is some women can lie. Like, I know that for a fact for certain situations, but give the women the room. Like, if someone comes to that and tells you something like that, then you listen to them and follow up with them, to ensure that, right. if it happened or not, like, I wouldn't necessarily give carte blanche to like believing all women per se, but they use that, like the Democrats use that in terms of Me Too, but then like, when Tara Reade came out, it was like people had such a hard, like, twisting in knots and being like,
oh yeah, but
we said believe all women, but this doesn't fit our narrative, and this this is the person that we want, so it like they basically caught themselves, in terms of like not following through with what they were saying, believe all women,
right?
So.
And speaking of Blimo, they're also talking about Cuomo here, who he's saying like should resign, right? And Tara Reade had Karen Hinton on her show, who's one of the accusers there. People should go check that out.
Thanks, Indy.
Yeah, appreciate that, Indy Left. Apparently, Misty needs me to make a meme. What meme am I tasked by the great and powerful Misty into making? Our glorious cult leader. Sarcasm Stardust. I love every time Jimmy brings her on or says something about her. It's like, Misty Putin, like, it's like, no, you should get that it's Misty is Putin's body, because you kind of made the whole joke. That's like your joke, man. I mean, I feel you, bro. Weed's a powerful drug. All right, I get it. But anyway, so it continues. She was just about to make a speech. He came up behind her just to be like, "You're going to do good out there, honey," Maher told the panel before acting out a Biden sniff. "Let's not pretend that we live in the world where all these things are the same." I agree with that, Charlemagne conceded. The real-time host went on to slam Cuomo for denying he was trying to make advances towards his accusers. "Yes, you were," Maher said. "Just to be real about it, I'm lonely, I'm horny. I mean, there's nothing sadder than a man with no game." Tara Reade slammed Maher as an abhorrent expert in sexual misconduct, telling Fox News, I dare him to speak to me or have me on his show since he disparages me. Reed, who previously served as a staffer for then Senator Biden, came forward last year claiming that her former boss sexually assaulted her. Both Biden and his presidential campaign repeatedly denied her allegations. So, yeah, that's fun stuff. Also, meanwhile, 3 women came forward with their own claims against the embattled New York governor. Lindsey Boyan, the former deputy secretary for economic development and a special advisor to Cuomo, accused the Democrat last week of making sexually charged comments, unwanted touching, and forcibly kissing her on the lips during a one-on-one briefing. Cuomo's office has denied her claims. Charlotte Bennett, an exclusive assistant and health policy advisor in the Cuomo administration, alleged to the New York Times on Saturday that the governor asked her inappropriate questions about her sex life in his office. The third woman, Anna Rush, told the Times on Monday that Cuomo touched her bare lower back and asked if he could kiss her during a wedding reception in 2019. So, yeah, as well as, you know, like that guy being shitty. Tara Reid wants to point out that Maher himself has had plenty of run-ins with sexual misconduct, specifically to none other than Rose McGowan. Which, like, come on, man. Like, you can't be bad to both of these women. Like, that's, you know. Anyway, she's retweeting Rose McGowan. And Rose McGowan types, at Bill Maher, here's a memory I'd like to share with you. I bet you don't remember, but I sure do. I was so excited to be on your show and get to flex my mind instead of my face. Here's what happened. All I can say, Bill, you got the face you deserved. So, you know, like more people reply to Tara. He has had 2 successful political talk shows. His career spans decades. He hasn't been caught up in any scandals and corruption. So I think there are plenty of people who grew up watching him or have grown old with him. Tara Reid again responds with this article from the Wrap about Rose's tweet. So Rose McGowan accused Bill Maher Friday night of whispering in her ear that he had a huge cock when she was a guest on his defunct late-night show, Politically Incorrect, in the 1990s. Bill Maher, here's a memory I'd like to share with you. I bet you don't remember, but I sure do. Right? We just read all that, right? She wrote on Twitter, along with a screen grab of a previous tweet of hers. I was on your show, Politically Incorrect, in the late 90s. As the show returned from a commercial break, you leaned over to me and whispered in my ear, my parents didn't give me a good face, but they did give me a huge cock, she wrote. I could feel your hot breath on my ear as an image of both your hideous face and alleged big cock flashed in my mind. Both turned my stomach. I've always wondered what you'd sick say and do to the girls that aren't famous. Maher hasn't responded to the accusation on Twitter yet, and The Wrap has reached out to him for comment. During the New Rules segment of Maher's HBO show Friday night, he talked at length about Tara Reid, who accused presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden of sexual assault in 1993. In the segment, Maher questioned the legitimacy of Reid's claims, saying, we're letting this person change the subject from the Donald Trump lethal incompetent to Joe Biden sex monster? She literally wrote a love letter to the murderer trying to keep Biden from the White House. He went on to add, I don't know if you noticed, but America has turned into a failed state that does a worse job getting its citizens alive during a pandemic than Cambodia, and to me, there's a little more important than Tara Reid achieving closure. She says Biden attacked her, and he says he didn't. Those are their positions. How about this for yours? Don't know, never will, don't care.
Don't care. Well, he doesn't have to care.
No.
Because he's rich.
Yes.
He doesn't have to care. So,
yes.
Sam Teeter, I don't care. Like, yeah,
yes.
I mean, God, I wish I was rich in a sense just to see the temptation there. But I think, you know, like it just proves that Bill Maher he's a shill for the Democratic Party, basically, at this point. Like, he's going to say whatever he needs to say to protect the Democratic Party. you know, and I know you and I know plenty of people, especially in this space like that. But, you know, again, like for me, you know, it's mostly the hypocrisy of it all. Like, if you're able to call out Trump for his, you know, accusations, then you should be more than willing to call out your own. I think probably more so if
Yeah.
they're able to do the same thing. And more often than not, like, again, it's just a mental gymnastics of being like, oh, like the Republican bad. And like, you know, so yeah, I could easily kind of, you know, attack them, but like, oh, it's on my team. So like, I have to kind of keep it on the hush hush and like defend them, even though like there's probably in this case more evidence, you know, Biden doing like similar shit, you know. So it's like,
openly
especially given like what we know
sniffing
about
little girls and like, you know, adult women, and, you know, I mean, among many powerful men, you know. So, but
like
you know,
I live in DC, and like someone has told me this, like if you hang out around the White House around, I'll say 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
you would see some things. You know, I'm not going to go into details, but you can kind of guess what kind of goes down in that area of the city around that time.
Yeah.
You know, that's in terms of like some of the depravity that you can imagine that's happening among the elite, and
Right.
maybe not so elite, or people trying to be among the elite. So you
Yeah.
can use your imagination, but like that's what I've been told. But I'm, you know, it's here, so I'm pretty sure that's more likely true if anything else. But
yeah. So in case people didn't know, McGowan spoke up publicly for the first time about sexual misconduct allegations against Harvey Weinstein. She says, I have been silenced for 20 years. I have been slut-shamed. I have been harassed. I've been maligned. And you know what? I'm just like you, she told the crowd, because what happened to me behind the scenes happens to all of us in this society, and that cannot stand, and it will not stand. She has since been a vocal supporter of victims of sexual misconduct and assault. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like someone like Krystal Ball, who has had Tara Reid on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a precedent of talking about Tara Reid to Bill Maher himself, right? You know, you don't figure out a way to mention that at all when talking about Biden, or, you know, especially when talking about how Trump's P tapes were, you know, like ridiculous, while also ignoring, you know, like the unequivocally true allegations of, you know, INN member Tara Reid. So,
but I think even for Krystal, she has her own mess too. Like,
yes.
Wasn't she like, I forgot exactly what it was, but wasn't she like, I think when she was running for Congress, like a story came out like in regards to her
having allegations against someone, right?
Well, but I think in terms of her having like a sex toy or something like that.
So like, that was also, that was too, the TYT played it, by the way, which I just find like, I remember this very clearly because it was like, you know, it was some like raunchy college party photos or whatever,
right,
that like had gotten leaked, and like, you know, TYT essentially reported it by pulling up those photos.
Of course,
like, anyway, that was on top of another allegation I think that Krystal Ball made when she was working somewhere, that like didn't play out, I don't think, right? You know, but I don't remember, along with PAC money stuff and super fun nonsense. But
but I mean, I said all of that just to kind of say like Krystal has gone through it, and I think she's fought back against it now. But so you would think that she would be a better advocate for Tara. And I mean, she did give her a platform, you know, initially, but not since. So it just kind of, to me, it's just kind of like, well, why did you bother? Why did you have her on Rising then? You know, if you weren't going to necessarily advocate for her
just
but
to
I
make
think,
sure
like
people are consistent. Tara Reid, I know, called out Marianne Williamson for the same thing, for going on Bill Maher and not mentioning her, right? And like, anyway, but we should probably get to our last story.
Yeah.
I'll let you run this one.
Okay.
So this is from Common Dreams, right?
Yes. Just need to pull it up so I can read it on my screen. So I know like Sabi and maybe a few others have reported on this, but but this took place in DC this past weekend. So the Poorest People's March was here. I didn't go because reasons. I mean, probably in hindsight, there was a concert going on at the same time, and I almost felt like, the concert was announced after this was announced. So I almost kind of feel like, that was almost on purpose in a sense.
Right.
But went to the concert, this, but
Yeah.
time. But never have like a block party with rich celebrities in like a 5-block radius on a 4-lane main street.
Probably not a good move.
But yeah, anyway, so the Poor People's March, organizing for peace, justice, and equality. Tens of thousands of people joined the mass Poor People's and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Memorial March on Washington and to the polls on June 18th. After her niece, a low-income mother free, was murdered several years ago, Walega Mashak of Galt, California, joined missing and murdered Indigenous women to feel less alone in her grief. She also joined the state chapter of the Poor People's Campaign, and on Saturday, June 18th, she stood with tens of thousands of people in Washington, D.C., representing MMIW, to condemn government policies that elevate militarism over human needs and to denounce religious bigotry and legislation that allows racism, sexism, classism, and homophobia to persist. The day was a mix of the personal and the political. The Reverend Jennifer Bartlett.
Oh, it's not changing.
Oh, it's not?
No. Why did it just stop that? Hold on. Where are we at? 35 is what I'm on.
Slide 37 now.
Cool.
Oh, you know why? Because I'm not using Google's remote.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I forgot.
Okay. Try it now.
Hold on.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Because I have to read it and click. So
yeah.
The day was a mix of the personal and the political. The Reverend Jennifer Barrett, a disciple of church pastor from Kansas City, Kansas, was initially drawn to the Mass Poor People's and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Memorial March on Washington and to the polls because of the increased barriers to voting in the United States. Okay. Valora Starr, a lay pastor from Chicago's Bethel Lutheran Church, is standing near the Barretts and overhears our conversation. As a child in 1968, she says, she didn't understand the importance of the original Poor People's Campaign led by the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Now I know, she says. Yes, the arc may bend towards justice, but it's not bending fast enough. I'm here with a group of Black women, children from my church, and I want them to feel what it means to rise up and organize for peace, justice, and equality. Like many at Saturday's March, Starr believes that spiritual uplift is separate from activism and stresses that prayer and practice are two sides of the same coin. Praying with our feet, an idea popularized by Frederick Douglass, is important, she says, since change will not happen without pressure.
Okay.
Okay. The visibly religious crowd waved banners and signs to promote the issues that brought them to the nation's capital. Placards read, "Fight poverty, not the poor," and "Fund people, not war." Others proclaimed, There is enough for everyone. Okay, I don't. I'm gonna try, and if I butcher in Spanish, that's not my language.
Okay.
So todo el mundo necesita de derecho a vivir. Did I say it right, Reef?
I think I'm trying to find it now. Okay, yeah. Todo el mundo necesita el derecho a vivir.
Okay.
Yep.
Or got close. Or all people of the world need the right to live, and poverty is violence. And while many temples, mosques, churches, and synagogues brought large contingents to assembly, secular groups including Black Voters Matter, the Border Network for Human Rights, Code Pink, the Communist Party, Jessica Migrante, the National Organization for Women, Planned Parenthood, the Revolutionary Communist Party, the Sunrise Movement, Veterans of Peace, and several trade unions were also present.
I think if you're using Bariquin Indy, it might also be Bibir. I think sometimes you hit those V's like B's, depending on the dialect, but you know. Yeah, so you're saying?
In addition to changing our domestic priorities, many attendees also expressed concern about US foreign policy. Human rights are not just for people in the United States. Melissa Neuweiser of the Washington, D.C. metro area chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace tells The Progressive, we need to make sure that militarism and US support for authoritarian and oppressive governments, including Israel, don't get sidelined. Indeed, reducing the grotesquely bloated US military budget has long been a goal of the PPC. As one of their pre-printed signs reminded rally goers, since 9/11, the United States has spent more than $20 trillion on war. The military budget is memorial, PPC co-chair, the Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II told the cheering crowd. This is why we need a third reconstruction. This, Barber explained, will build on the work done after the Civil War, the first Reconstruction, and during the contemporary civil rights movement led by Reverend King, the second Reconstruction. We are a fusion coalition, he said, and we will continue our work until 6 votes are healed, to affordable housing is provided, to the land and the water protected, and until saving the world is more important than blowing it up. This promise is not negotiable. We won't be silent or unseen any longer. The PPC strategy is to build from the bottom up, co-chair Reverend Liz Fiartis told the assembly. The low-wage workers, the left out, and the excluded are a social force, she said. When we cry for justice, when we cry for power, when we take bold action, we show those in leadership what's possible. What's more, Fiartis added, those who are most directly impacted by racism, sexism, homophobia, and poverty can take strength from each other. Indeed, tears flowed as speaker after speaker shared stories of surviving a range of indignities, anti-LGBTQIA+ discrimination, voter disenfranchisement, incarceration, family separation, homelessness and hunger, opioid addiction, overcrowded and inadequate schools, environmental calamities, and losing loved ones to suicide, gun violence, and to treatable illnesses because of gaps in insurance coverage. But the day offered far more than anger, sadness, and despair. Performances by a PPC choir got the crowd clapping, swaying, and raising their voices in joyful song. All told, it was a heady and inspiring day. 54 years ago, my father, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., launched the first Poor People's Campaign to revolutionize the country, Reverend Bernice King told the crowd. Decades later, riddling a nation of the evil and violence of poverty remains a moral imperative. The PPC estimates that there are 140 million poor and low income in the United States, with slightly more than half of all children living at or near the federal poverty level of $18,310 for a household of 2 and $27,750 for a unit of 4.
Okay.
Any nation that ignores nearly half of its citizens is in a moral, economic, and political crisis, Barber told the assembly. We have the ability to win, but it will take a growing movement of poor and working people to take action. Jack Arnold, a retired teacher from Brooklyn, New York, tells The Progressive. He adds, today's protest has been wonderful, but now we need to use our power to vote, to
Oof.
resist and to do the hard work of organizing a much bigger group of supporters.
That'll give them. Voting though ain't doing shit. But
Well, I think
you know,
and I think this was which I hate saying because this march was probably more aligned, I think, with what we've been trying to advocate for,
yeah,
you know, in this space. The problem I have is it's like, and I mentioned this a lot. I saw this at the George Floyd protest 2 years ago, that many people, and I think it was many of them were Black Lives activists, use that opportunity for people to say, you know, like Trump is bad, we have to vote Biden,
right.
you know, and really, and we've said this many times with Chris Smalls, this should be a non-partisan,
Political, yeah, yep,
non-political thing. And I'm fine with voting, but I think like it's still the idea of like we have to vote for the right people in and hope that things change.
right.
Voting is the last thing that should be on the docket, not the first.
Like, you know what would really help poor people?
You come
voting
in
for
with
that
your
moderate
demands.
liberal, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
you come in with your demands, you make the politicians bend to your will, and if they choose and if they decide to do it, yeah, then you vote for them. But yeah, I think the thing that it was just in the article is like, and again, that may not necessarily be clear about vote for who.
Yeah.
You know, like, are they going to talk about voting independent or Green Party? You know, because the Democrats, and I feel like, especially since it's Bernice King, and I know, and this is kind of hurtful to say because I mean, being a child with a father who has some influence, you know, like I understand like the you know, the struggle in kind of living up to that, and definitely like the King children, you know, have a lot to live up to in light of their father and their mother in the activism that they had, you know, like in their lifetimes. But you know, definitely what I've seen from Dr. Martin Luther King III, you know, just in interviews I've seen, like he's a liberal, like he's not, he doesn't have that revolutionary spirit that his father had, you know. And I know if like, and this is kind of the thing with Barber, it's like he, and again, like he almost kind of pushes people into the establishment, you know, as far as we have to vote for, you know, I think predominantly Democrat. And it's like, yeah, like this should be a nonpartisan issue. And I feel like with this, they were so close to actually having the idea of what a nonpartisan coalition, especially of the working class, should be like. But all that to say again, going back to our first segment, where was Bowman? Like, where was AOC? Where was Ilhan Omar? Like, where is the squad? These are the very people that, you know, that you're trying to reach, right?
Yeah.
And where were you? Like, and Jamaal Bowman said, you know, like coming full circle here, like in the video that I played, like you have to engage Congress. Yes, work on the local level, but you got to engage Congress too. And these people are obviously trying to do that, you know. And where's the response? And you know, like I know like there's certain people on Twitter who are kind of complaining about Jimmy Dore and like other folks who feel like they're drifting like for the upcoming March for Medicare for All, which by the way, we need to get Ricky on soon.
Yeah, we'll do that next week.
Yeah. You know, like also shout out to our brother Jesse Jett and like Alice Sepia and a few others from our network, they're going to be a part of an event online next week in connection to the Marches for Medicare for All. So we'll definitely send you more information on that. But definitely, like we'll support, our fellow colleagues in the network. But
absolutely,
they're talking about Jimmy Dore, but it's like this was going on and this got no news, So so again, I just hate this idea of like you're just picking and choosing battles with, really us who are significant in a lot of ways, when these are the working class who are trying to do what they need to do, and no one's talking about this. So honestly, the only reason why I heard about this was from Savvy, who reported on it. Shout out to you. But that was months ago. But I think a lot of people were kind of about it, for the idea like it can be like interpreted as a partisan affair, which we don't necessarily know in the article, but it kind of alluded to it.
Yeah.
So I know for a lot of people, myself included, that was kind of the problem that I had with this march. But I loved how it was truly like a working class coalition. And, I'll also say it, Chris Smalls.
Yeah.
This is who you're working for. Like, instead of taking pictures with Zendaya, like, you should have been here. So yeah, I wish it got a lot more attention in certain ways, but given like, I do feel like because of the concert that was happening, at the same time, that overtook obviously this. But yeah, so any thoughts on any of this?
I mean, I feel like it just shows that, like, for one, this whole thing kind of got like co-opted and weird already, right? This poor people's thing. And then on top of that, none of the ones that are already co-opted and weird who could at least use this as like lip service didn't. So
Fundraise was part of this.
Right. Yep. And like no coverage, no
coverage, no nothing. And like, and Sunrise, and now I'm thinking about it, like, this should have gotten more, especially a lot of play from them. Like, we'll have to check their Twitter feeds, but like, I didn't hear much from anybody about this. So
well, and we'll see coming up with this live stream to help raise funds for Savage Joy's thing. That's on June 29th. Right. I know Indy had on Durden today to kind of talk about that, I think, here on this channel. So just go back in the doobly doo there and find that video. But
we definitely
anyway,
need to have Ricky and even maybe Savage Joy on at some point.
Right before us,
kind of share more.
Over on Noli D's channel, which if you go in the description down below, look for that Indie News Network link tree. You'll see it on the screen below me, indienews.network. You should be able to find links to Noli's channel, and you should go watch that. It had DJ Joe Nice, who we had on last week, and had Unholy Rome Bethia, who does so much good work, bro. I wish I could we could clone you and put you everywhere. So, but everyone should go check that out. You also find tweets from INN. So again, download that doobly doo, that Indie News Network. You can find all the channels links as well as all our members links there. You'll be able to find Collins at Ogbonna_Colin on Twitter. You see right underneath him as well. Anything you got coming up, Colin?
Am I going to be on your show Friday?
Friday, I hope so. Yeah. I got to reach out to a few more people tomorrow, and make a thumbnail and all that jazz. But yeah, we'll definitely do one. It's been too long to not do one. So
Yeah.
but
I'm also wondering, given this fundraiser next week, should we have INN news next week?
Well, we'll see when that
I
is.
guess we have to figure that out.
Yeah, and we can always move the date around, but just stay posted on our Twitter. We'll let you know what's happening. You know, but
I'm off work after Friday, so it'll be a lot easier to switch to a different day or time if necessary.
Right.
On my end. So.
But yeah, cool. Indy left. I don't know if we're doing one Sunday. For How Do We Miss That? But probably. You know, a Thursday, Warren's probably doing a thing, I imagine, like he normally does. So people should go check that channel out. Again, down in that doobly-doo. Tar Reed Monday. So anything else we're missing?
Yeah.
You went on Savvy
No,
Savs.
but-
People should go check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she clipped that from yesterday, but also, so you definitely check her out. Give her some love too.
Yeah.
And yeah, once again, guys, thank you so much for subscribing. We're up to 500. I am crossing my fingers. I have a personal bet that we will hit the 1,000 mark, hopefully by the end of the summer.
Yep.
I think that might be a little aggressive, but I think it's doable. But yeah, so definitely support us, subscribe to us, check to make sure you're subscribed. Because I know like YouTube is doing
funky stuff with
fuckery
that
already with us already.
Yep.
And we're a baby but growing. So check to see if you're subscribed to us.
531 it says now.
Yep.
But
So-
yeah, American Tradition also with Jesse Jet Tuesday. If that happens, we'll see. He's got some of the Ovids,
Right.
So get him some get well soons. Anthony Malaki saying we'll hit 1,000 on August 14th. So save that date.
Right.
But
We should take a bet. We should take a bet or something. Like we should
Okay.
do something special when we hit 1,000.
I did want to say we do have something special on the Rockfin, something that is always depreciated here at INN. Curl Fingers tipped us $2. I'll split them with you, Colin.
Hey.
So good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the donations and all the Patreon supporters and all the followers and all the people in chat. And the people who aren't in chat, we love you too. But anyway, that's us out for tonight. As always.
Oh wait, so hold on. We got Anthony Malecki. It's your birthday. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday,
sir.
bro. Happy
Wherever
birthday.
you are, hope you have a good day or night wherever you are in the world.
I hope you get to eat cake at least. But I think that is the first Rockfin tip ever on INN. So appreciate you, Curl Fingers. But yeah, as always, labels are bad. Please stay independent. Good night, everybody.
Good night. See you next week, baby.
You too.
Hopefully.